This Notebook LM video provides an extensive analysis of a key prophecy regarding leadership and restoration. It begins with a strong condemnation of Israel's rulers, kings, priests, and prophets, who are likened to negligent shepherds. It also foretells a new shepherd from David's line, interpreted in Christian theology as pointing to Jesus, the Good Shepherd.
All right, let's dive right in. Today we're going to unpack a 2,500-year-old text from the prophet Ezekiel. Now, this isn't some dusty, irrelevant scroll. It is a powerful, blistering critique of bad leadership. It's a picture of a nation in total crisis. And ultimately, it's this dramatic story of hope and rescue. So let's get into it. You know, at its core, this whole prophecy boils down to one question, a question that honestly never gets old. What happens when the very people who are supposed to protect you end up being the ones who hurt you the most? That's the central conflict we're going to explore. Okay, so to really get this prophecy, you have to picture the scene. The year is just after 586 BC. The nation of Israel is gone. It's collapsed. Jerusalem has been destroyed, and the people have been dragged off into exile in Babylon. Just imagine that for a second. You're defeated, you're leaderless, and you are desperate for answers. This is the brokenhearted audience that Ezekiel is speaking to. Now, this next part is absolutely crucial. The central metaphor here is everything. When Ezekiel talks about shepherds, he's not talking about guys out in a field with some sheep. In the ancient world, shepherd was a title for a king. Rulers all over the place, from Mesopotamia to Egypt, they proudly called themselves shepherds of their people. So, from here on out, when you hear the word shepherd, I want you to think kings, priests, the whole ruling class. And that brings us to the first part of the story, this just scathing critique of Israel's leadership. It doesn't start with comforting words. Nope. It opens like a courtroom with a divine indictment against the very people who were supposed to be taking care of everybody. And the charges laid out are just devastating. These leaders were completely self-serving. They ate well, but they let the flock starve. They wore the best clothes made from the wool, but they didn't care for the actual sheep. The text says they ignored the weak, they didn't heal the sick, they didn't even bother looking for those who were lost. Instead of guidance, they ruled with cruelty. It's the exact opposite of what a leader should be.
And the results of this failure? The text is brutally clear. Without any real leadership, the nation just fell apart. The people, the sheep, were scattered everywhere, left completely vulnerable to every threat out there. They became, as the prophecy says, food for all the wild animals. The whole system didn't just bend, it broke, leaving everyone totally exposed.
But right here, at this moment of total darkness and despair, the whole narrative just pivots. It's a huge turn. A stunning announcement is made. Someone else is taking over.
And you have to listen to the language here. The phrase, I myself, just gets repeated over and over. This isn't a promise to find some better human leaders or start a new program. No, this is a declaration of direct, personal, divine intervention. God is stepping in to do the job that the failed shepherds completely refused to do. So what you get is this powerful contrast, this side-by-side that really defines the entire chapter. Where the human shepherds scattered the flock, God says, I will gather it. Where they ignored the weak, God says, I will strengthen them. Every single failure of the old leadership is answered with a direct, personal promise of restoration from the one true shepherd. And this whole divine rescue mission, it all builds to one final incredible promise. The solution isn't just about fixing the problems right now. It's about putting in place a new kind of leadership for good. The prophecy declares that God will install one shepherd to lead them. And get this, he's named my servant David. He's going to be the true and just ruler the people have always needed, someone who won't take from the flock but will actually feed them and be their shepherd in the realest sense of the word. But hold on a second. When Ezekiel says David, isn't King David long gone by this point? And yes, you'd be absolutely right. He'd been dead for nearly 400 years. And that's the whole point. Ezekiel isn't talking about bringing the historical king back from the dead. He's pointing to the future, to an ideal ruler from David's family line, a messianic figure who will finally be the perfect shepherd king. And the rule of this new shepherd is going to kick off what the text calls a covenant of peace. And this is so much more than just the absence of war. It's a vision of total safety and flourishing. Fear will be gone. The land will be rich and prosperous. And the people will finally be safe, not just from armies, but from things like hunger and humiliation too. So, this powerful prophecy, first given to a small group of heartbroken exiles, didn't just fade away in ancient Babylon. Not even close. It went on to have a massive influence on history and theology, with its echoes showing up centuries later. If you jump forward to the Christian New Testament, you see this imagery picked up and applied directly to Jesus. I mean, look at this. Ezekiel's promise of one shepherd is echoed when Jesus says, "I am the good shepherd." God's promise to search for the sheep is directly linked to Jesus' mission to seek and save the lost. The connection is impossible to miss. So what are we supposed to take away from this, all these thousands of years later? Well, this text gives us a timeless blueprint for what true leadership is all about. It makes the case that leadership is supposed to be for the good of other people, not the leader. It demands that a real leader goes out and finds the vulnerable, protects the community, and remembers that all authority in the end is accountable to something higher. And that really leaves us with one last question to chew on. In our own lives, our families, our jobs, our communities, this ancient story challenges us to ask ourselves, what does it really mean to be a good shepherd in our world today?